Imagine you've only ever read Matthew, Mark, and Luke. You know the parables, you know the Sermon on the Mount. Now someone hands you the Gospel of John, no parables, no Sermon on the Mount. Instead, Jesus speaks in long mystical discourses about light and darkness, about being from above. It feels like a different religion. That's because it comes from a different community with its own traditions, its own hero, and its own way of understanding Jesus. So where does this strange, beautiful alien gospel come from? The answer takes us into one of the most fascinating corners of early Christianity. Scholars group 4 New Testament texts as products of a single tradition called Johannine Christianity, meaning the tradition associated with the name John. These 4 texts, the Gospel of John and 3 short letters, share distinctive vocabulary: light, darkness, truth, abide, the world. They share theological emphasis, a cosmic dualism, a towering view of Christ, sharp boundaries between insiders and outsiders. And they share a literary style unlike anything else in the New Testament. Authorship remains debated, but the family resemblance is unmistakable. Now, compare this tradition with the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. They're called Synoptic because they see together, sharing much of the same material and structure. The contrasts with John are stark. The Synoptics are full of parables. John has none. Instead, long discourses. The Synoptics present Jesus as an ethical teacher. John presents him as a divine revealer, the cosmic logos, Greek for word, a concept identifying Jesus as the divine word present at creation. The Synoptics place the temple cleansing near the end of Jesus' ministry. John puts it at the beginning. These are minor editorial choices. They reflect fundamentally different theological visions. Here's the key insight. Early Christianity was not one church with one set of beliefs. It was a constellation of communities, Pauline churches in Corinth and Galatia, Synoptic traditions preserving Jesus' teachings, the Jerusalem church led by James, and the Johannine community, so with its own theology and its own literature. Their writings all made it into the canon, and they don't always agree with each other, but the differences go deeper than missing parables and rearranged timelines. John's community had a worldview all its own. Look at the language: light versus darkness, above versus below, children of God versus children of Satan. There is no middle ground. You are either in or out. This is sectarian language, meaning language that draws sharp in-group, out-group boundaries. It suggests a community that saw itself as sharply separated from the outside world, including perhaps other Christian groups. This is the language of a community under pressure, defining itself against outsiders, circling its wagons around a distinctive understanding of who Jesus was and what it meant to follow him. At the heart of this community stands one of the New Testament's most enduring mysteries, the beloved disciple. This figure appears only in John's Gospel. He reclines next to Jesus at the Last Supper. He stands at the foot of the cross. He outruns Peter to the empty tomb. Tradition identifies him as John, son of Zebedee, the young bearded figure in centuries of Christian art. But the Gospel never names him. Most scholars acknowledge the identification is uncertain. He may have been a real historical figure, a literary symbol, or the community's founding authority. His anonymity tells us something about how this community constructed its identity. The driving force behind the divisions in John's world is Christology, beliefs about the nature and identity of Jesus. John's Gospel opens with the cosmic logos hymn, "In the beginning was the Word." This is the highest Christology in the New Testament. It was not universally accepted. The first centuries of Christianity were consumed by exactly this debate. So what do we do with all of this? Read John side by side with Mark. Notice the differences, not as contradictions to explain away, but as evidence of a living, breathing, diverse movement. Each text is a window into a different community's experience of faith. And the New Testament is not a single voice, it's a collection of voices, sometimes harmonizing, sometimes in tension, always revealing the complexity of what it meant to follow Jesus in the first century. And the next time you read the Gospel of John, remember, you're not just reading a book, you're listening in on a community with its own heroes, its own enemies, its own way of making sense of Jesus. Recognizing that changes how you understand the entire New Testament.